Whoever are making these characters, they're out of control. Even for the past couple of months, whoever they are, someone's gotta stop them. Cause our 6th anniversary character, Enya, is just a crazy broken support character. When it comes to those characters, this long games has no chill. What she has is pretty amazing, and then you look at her 3C. That thing alone is what makes her entirely broken due to the endless possibilities that you can create. Essentially taking what you have and doubling it. So you can double your DPS rate, your healing rate, support rate, anything goes. So let me show you guys what I mean, and I'll even show you guys how to build her. So we have her talent here. She gets more int. After taking action, can choose to prophecy the first skill on an allied unit will use on the next turn, which lasts 1 turn. When the prophesied skill deals damage, its cooldown is reduced by 5, which has cooldown. This prophecy is unique, ignores immunity, and cannot be dispelled. When it's fulfilled, she gets Augur that increases her range, that stacks 3 times and cannot be dispelled. Upon reaching the max limit, the allied unit that fulfilled the prophecy can act again. So it is ridiculous that cooldown is ridiculously high for how effortlessly you can trigger it. I do recommend having her at 5 stars if you want to use her at max efficiency. Not just for the range, even though it is pretty good, but mainly it's so that she doesn't spend so much downtime on her prophecy, because you're going to be able to spam the cooldown quite fast, get the Etiquette trigger, basically she gets to ramp up faster. But yeah, other than that, nothing too crazy so far, maybe besides her faction buff being a 1C skill, but just wait until we take a look at her 3C. That thing is the most ridiculous part of her arsenal. Her lab class allows her to have a much stronger healing potential, which is fine if you want to focus more heavily on support with her. The right side is what I would consider more flexible since she does get more damage plus damage reduction when entering battle. So take your pick, whatever works with you. So the class mastery stones, you want HP, int, and defense all across the board. However, the last two, you can replace defense with skill. The arena stones, it's best that you do a defensive set. Even with her having a sub DPS role, it's not enough to deter another compatible set. One of her best soldiers will include the Windbloom Chanter, so that when she provides support for her teammates, she can randomly reduce an attacking skill cooldown. Forest Priest to dispel debuffs, Dry Maiden for the huge physical survivability. If you want some attacking soldiers, then the Conjurer, the new mage soldier, is really good. They have sustainability with moderate attack power. Wild Expedition to deal with flyers, who also has that can be physically tanky too under specific tiles, so they can be quite good on certain maps. You have the Fairy here who is better overall in damage, compared to the Sorceress where they need to be at full HP always in order to deal a lot of damage. They can deal more damage than the Fairies, but the Fairies are a lot more consistent. Then the Sky Archer, which gives you flying movement, with also a good attack power as well. Her best weapon includes the Night Bloom. Since she's going to provide a bunch of support, she's going to be dispelling debuffs at the same time. This is her top priority weapon because some of her other ones don't provide a whole lot as this. However, they're still going to be quite good to use, like the Red Moon, in order to boost her int by a large margin and HP even further. Maybe Scepter if you feel like they're going to be using her as a sub DPS quite often. I feel like there might be a few people who might run that, not a whole lot. You can use Blue Moon if you don't have the Red Moon. They're the same thing, but instead of having HP, it's magic defense. But let's say that you don't have any of these or just don't want to use any of them. Then any of the heal increase weapon is fine, or just use any int increase weapon. Her best armor will be Tenuos. It has a chance to dispel a buff on an enemy for a debuff if they single target attack. There's also Reaper's Clothes, which is your best chance to survive a single target attack since it lowers your chance to be crit while lowering your damage if you're lucky. The thing about it is that there's no HP increase on it, which is a scary part, so if you get hit by AoEs, it's gonna be quite scary. So on your enchants, you gotta have like good HP on it. Ritual of Confusion is the same situation, but it lowers your AoE damage taken while doing more healing. Either of these two are very situational, but it definitely helps. Stuff like that are hard to choose from, so if you want it easier, then I would recommend using Tenyo since it does give you HP, which boosts both situations, and hopefully it saves you the stress of which one that you want to use. Nebulous Robe, the same thing. It lowers reflect damage, but you're mainly doing it for the huge HP boost if you don't have the Tenyo armor. Lastly, the Galaxy Cloak is your last best choice, which gives a huge magic defense boost while having good HP increase. Or you can use Twilight Guard if you care about healing with her. For the helmet, there's a lot of options to choose from, starting with the Tenyos. If you're within 2 blocks of any ally, then one of them will get a random buff. The random element is there, but you can get some powerful buffs. Electric headwear to prevent displacement effects, earmuffs to apply an ally within 1 block to take less damage and have fix immune, which is very good to constantly apply on, let's say, a tank. Idrisul is nice to use mainly for PvE content to apply immunity to stun, buff block, and mobility, which is huge on your tank. For survivability, you have Glory, which gives you healing if in mixed forces before entering battle. You'll also have a Revive, which only triggers by taking fixed damage. Then you have the Dark Crown, which is the same thing as a Galaxy Cloak. Huge magic defense and a good amount of HP. With the accessory, I highly recommend Swordsmith or Holy Ring. They both give you silence immunity, which are problematic against support characters so that they supply the team. I do recommend Swordsmith the most here since you also get fix immune and have bulk. Meanwhile, the Holy Ring boosts your int by good amounts. But another bulk option is the Butterfly, which helps you sustain by healing if you get a debuff, which is really good on everyone really. More technical options include Heart of Redemption, it lets you be immune to fixed damage and more healing. Juggler Plushie can be a strong one to use to extend the turn duration of a single target support skill. Even Goddess Tear to help dispel debuffs by being near your teammates. If you're worried about assassins, then Star Earring can be something to use, which is mainly good I would say in PvP due to the ninja dudes, whereas PvE, they normally won't target ranged enemies. As for enchants, you can do Full Moon for the stats up, so it's a flexible option to go for. You can do Tree of Life for even more bulk, plus extra defense and magic defense for nearby teammates, then Crystal for more healing. The kind of enchant stats that you want to look for is HP int and defense, but always aim for tons of HP and int. Whatever third substat that you get is just something extra nice. You don't really want to care about that too much. It is going to be really expensive if you try to get the perfect enchant. So always just aim for the two main things, HP int or HP and attack on anyone else. But if you did manage to get only tons of int on your weapon, then that's totally fine, just as long as the other ones has HP in it. Right, so hopefully you guys have an idea on how to build your Enya. So now, for anyone struggling with this one, let's go ahead and walk through her first awakening stage. Alright, so for this one, you're gonna be up against Jace, Nemia, and then finally Virelia. So there's really only one that I recommend, which is her AoE here, just so that you do chip damage. This thing does reach insanely far, so incredibly safe to use. Then another one is her 1C, which is a short cooldown, plus you're going to be doing a lot more damage compared to her other 2C skill here. But if you really want to play it safe, then I do recommend having her 1C skill for the constant healing. So the soldiers that I'm going to be using is the Water Expedition. Now I'm mainly using them because of the enemies having lower defense compared to the magic defense. But if you don't have them upgraded, then using any of the other ones is totally fine. You know, it's not a huge deal. So I really recommend using Fairy here. If you don't have them upgraded, then Sorceress is just fine. Even the Wizard too, if you don't have any of those two upgraded. The Conjurer is really nice, it gives you sustainability, which I would highly recommend to use. They are really new, so maybe not a lot of guys will use them, so either Fairy, Sorceress, or Wizard is going to be your best shot here. Okay, starting this off, what's really nice about dealing with Jace is that he doesn't have any of his OP skills here. He just has some like basic stuff, which is really nice. So we're going to use this time to build up our stacks. So we want to use our talent skill and use it on Enya, and then I do want to use our AoE here because we're going to use it to do some chip damage. So we can really go ahead and use this. You do want to use it right away because it lasts for one turn, so let's go ahead and use that. We're going to apply our stacks here, get more range for us. So yeah, we did a good amount of damage there. And so right here, I do want to wait an extra turn just so that I lower the cooldown of her Prophecy talent skill. And what's nice about Jace going down is that we can go up here and then like next turn we for sure have to take out Jace. So now we do get to attack from 3 blocks because of the Prophecy we did on Enya. So let's go ahead and use our whatever skill you got. Single target, any of them will work. Although your 1C is going to do a lot more damage because of her talent skill. To deal with Nemia, what's really unfortunate for me is that she does get the mobility increase. If you are more lucky than me right here, you will spend more time waiting for a talent skill. So yeah, with Nemia, good thing she doesn't have any of her AoE, just a single target, just as long as she isn't standing on her tiles. So with this, she is gonna just come up to us blindly, so we're gonna try to use our talent skill here. So unfortunate for me is that I can't use her AoE with her talent skill to get us another stack, since Nemia is gonna run up to us and then zone us. So we're just gonna use our single target skill here. Just go ahead and use the 1C since it's gonna be more stronger. For you guys, you might be able to use her AoE to do some chip damage and then finish her off in the next turn. Unfortunately for me, I can't do that, so I have to resort to just one-shotting Enya here, because what can I do? So the thing about Aurelia here is that I did do some testing on the stage before doing this recording, you know, just to come up with a strategy. And I did have an attempt where she did not use her range skill at all. She went for the cooldown and then her double attack, and then that was it. But this time she got the range, which is really unfortunate because what can you do? How do you avoid that? And plus she does have act again while bumping herself up, which is insanely scary. So the thing you want to do is just count. So the thing about AoEs is that it does go an extra block, so right here, and then you want to count 2 more, so 1, 2, which is kind of sad because I can't use AoEs to reach her. Even counting like that doesn't help because she does have act again. So I'm going to try to fall all the way back here in hopes I can avoid her. If she does her double, okay, she got the cooldown, which was a bit scary right there, but she does come up to us, and this right here was perfect. I got the range that I needed, and plus with the 2 buffs that I got from killing the first tier enemy, we should be hopefully taking on Aurelia, which doesn't have a lot of HP, so we should be able to just barely. Could have attacked from 4 blocks now that I think about it. I just kind of risked it, but I did run into some unfortunate things, like with Enya getting the mobility and Aurelia having the range, which is very hard to avoid Aurelia. So yeah, just the same strategy as you dealt with Jace, AoE into single targets. Also, don't worry about the Enya towers too much if she's on it. If you're able to reach her and she's on it, you will be able to wipe out the towers with the AoE so that Enya doesn't get the extra mobility from it. So yeah, the first 2 should be quite easy to handle, not too bad. Aurelia is the only one that is really scary here. Act again, the range increase, double attack, and bumping herself up constantly. Definitely just gotta play really smart right there. If you got rid of the 2 first enemy, you should be able to kill Aurelia. It should be more than enough. Finally, we get to talk about her 3C, the one major thing that makes her insanely broken. So this thing has a 1-turn cooldown. It summons an illusion of another non-summon ally and creates a water mirror within 2 rings for 2 turns, and she can act again after using it. While water mirror exists, the skill is replaced with Fate's Order. When the caster ends its turn outside the water mirror's range, it is removed. In PvP, each hero can be only selected 1 time. The illusion inherits the initial stats and all current effect of the original hero, and is considered Yellow's legend faction unit and takes 50% more damage when outside the water mirror's range. When the illusion dies, the skill's cooldown is increased by 1. So yeah, it doesn't show the secondary part of its skill, which I kind of wish that they do that instead of like having to go to the battle and actively see it for yourself there. Definitely a quality of life that I'm hoping when it comes to 2-part skills. So the second part of a 3C, it has a passive where the talent skill can be used on an enemy. When the prophecy is triggered, an additional stack of leader will be obtained, and when the prophecy is triggered on the enemy, their skill cooldown is increased by 2. If the number of augur stacks is maxed, the enemy will be stunned after the prophecy is triggered. In PvP, it just ends their turn immediately. So as a command effect where allies within range take less AoE damage, at the end of action, you're able to heal. So the skill itself, when used on an ally, they take less damage and is immune to all debuffs for 2 turns. If the target is a water illusion, the displacement effect is also triggered, causing them to swap places with their primary body. So just by reading it, it does sound kinda crazy, but definitely you gotta watch like gameplay of it to truly see how insane this is. This is what her 3C animation looks like. I actually like this a lot. I think this one has a lot more quality visual to it compared to the other ones. I think the next one was crisp, but I think this one just looks a lot more clean with it. Just looks a lot more smooth. I think Bright Summoner visual is just very interesting to look at. Like, it looks really nice. Alright, so for the second awakening stage, I didn't find it to be too difficult, but I just thought it would be neat to just show you guys. So the first thing that you want to do is just have Asoda just move to the left and go for the middle skill, the one that lets you do more skill damage. And I did move Enya and applied the talent skill onto Asoda. Just use it on her air slash, and then I had Tarantul stay still and use his talent skill on the other Tarantul. And then just have Enya place so that both Tarantul and Asoda benefit from her passive. That's what I was really doing here. And so with the enemy closing in, Nemia does put herself within 2 blocks of Torrential, which does indeed reach my Torrential, but thanks to the talent skill, we didn't take as much damage. Although I did get a moment where Nemia just moved across and then Torrential didn't benefit from the mobility passive. So that may happen. I think you just have to put another unit on top and then Nemia just goes across. But what's really nice about that is that Enya doesn't reach exactly where Nemia is, and so that blocked out the AoE. And so what I did was I just had Isolde attack Nemia. You can attack Enya if she's more threatening because she does have healing skill, which you can mess around for the 50-50 chance for that to happen. And unfortunately, I couldn't get Nemia to kill Isolde. It's not the end of the world. And then I had my own Torrential kill off the other Torrential, which turned him into a summon. And with your own Enya, I did just bring all attack skills. You would definitely benefit from having another heal skill. It's just that I wasn't thinking of it. And so with all of that down, Isolde does use her AoE instead of a single target, which I was kind of glad that happened. And then Enya healed the Isolde by a good chunk, which didn't matter. My own Enya one-shotted the Isolde, which I was kind of surprised about considering how low her int was. Isolde takes out the enemy Enya, and then finally just deal with the summon. So yeah, there was that. It was a bit clunky, I will admit that, but I did try this a few times to try to get a perfect one, hopefully to make it more clean for you guys. But all the other attempts were a lot more clunkier than this run because the enemies just had so much mobility, and yet with their range, it was kind of hard to try to figure out, so it was better to jump at them before they jump at you. So yeah, there's that. Hopefully this helped you out. Maybe you could do a lot more better job than I did. So with that out of the way, let's get right on into her showcase. Alright, so here we are. Let's have a refresher on the talent. To get more int, after taking action, you can choose the prophecy the first skill on an allied unit will use on the next turn that lasts 1 turn. When a prophesied skill deals damage, its cooldown is reduced by 5, which has a cooldown, and it's unique, ignores immunity, and cannot be expelled. When a prophecy is fulfilled, this unit gains Augur, that increases her range, which stacks 3 times, cannot be expelled, and upon reaching the maximum limit, the ally that fulfilled the prophecy can act again. So when you end your turn, before you officially end it, you will be able to choose a talent skill, Prophecy of Fate. So this thing spreads out all over the map, which is kind of insane, really insane actually. You can choose it on NPCs as well, but we're gonna use it on Aurelia. When you select one, you will be able to choose 1 of 3 skills. So let's just go ahead and choose Heaven's Sanction. Whichever you want, go ahead and choose it. So now we have a new visual look. This will tell you, oh, this unit has Enya's buff. So we check the list of buffs. It basically just tells you everything that the talent already told you. Skill cooldown using skill damage, and is able to act again if Augur is max when you fulfill the prophecy. So just using any attack skill will net you a high ridiculous cooldown for some reason. It is insane how high the cooldown is, and you'll be able to tell if the cooldown works if you just pay attention because it does happen very quick. Basically it's the same trigger as with clock, the sound cue and everything. So yeah, if we check her skills now, her Heaven's Sanction came back online. And by checking Enya, you can see Augur, which increases her range. So now before she had 2, now she has 3. The thing about it is that you don't always have to use it on their attack skill. Of course you do get a bit more benefit from it. Don't feel tempted to use it always on their attack skill. You can literally use it on like let's say a support skill, and so just that way Enya gets to ramp up. That's what you should really aim for. Of course if you get the opportunity to, definitely use it on their attack skill. And just be careful when you act again too, because otherwise you'll lose it. Okay, now so this time with 3 stacks, which is her max, you can see that her range is 5, which is kind of nuts. But anyways, so by fulfilling a prophecy, so I do have her on her 2C skill so that we can just insanely buff up her stats. So you can see the trigger goes off, and hopefully we should be able to see it right here. Let's go ahead and buff herself up real quick. And then we should be able to see it. It will be like a mobility thing that does trigger, kind of like with if you guys know Gale. You know, it's the same sound cue like with Breeze and Gale. And so this way, and since we fulfilled the prophecy while having her at max stacks, we were able to act again. But yeah, I do recommend having Enya at 5 stars due to how long of a downtime it is at 3 stars. Even 4 stars too, even though it's a 3-turn cooldown, you're still spending a lot of time. So you get her to 5 stars so that she isn't taking too much time, so that way you can get her range up faster and be able to reach that act again too, and all that good stuff. There is this one trick that does help you build up those stacks faster, but that will require her 3C. So yeah, once we get into it, I'll show you guys what I mean. So let's go ahead and first take a look at her faction buff 1C skill here. So it's for Eula's characters that boost their stats, and does 50% more damage in battle. When triggering at the end effects, dispels 2 debuffs and grant immunity to debuffs for that turn, that lasts for 4 turns. So originally I thought that it was immunity to that specific buffs. Now even though I was trying to like look up some stuff about it, it was hard to like find visual look on it, on how that actually looked like. Plus sometimes the translation is a bit weird at times. So I'll go ahead and show you guys. So Enya is Euless, she got 2 debuffs. We have Rayleigh here who's also Euless, and then we got this clone right here who is also Euless. You guys might be thinking, where did that clone come from? I'll show you guys in a minute, because it is part of her 3C. But first we do need to use the prophecy right here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use it on the original Ashen here, our own Ashen. Now Ashen isn't Euless legend, so she isn't gonna benefit from the faction buff. But since my Enya does have Night Bloom, I kinda just didn't want to dispel anything yet. I kinda didn't want to dispel anything just to show you guys. So again, let's take a look at their debuff. So we got 2 right here, Enya still has 2, and a clone has 2. So let's go ahead and fulfill the prophecy here. And so Enya will do her faction buff. It does have the 3C animation. So all that going down, Enya doesn't benefit from it because she got buff block, but if you want the faction buff up constantly, you definitely want to find a character you know for sure will help you do that. So only 1 debuff got dispelled, that's because of Night Bloom, but no debuff dispelled yet because we didn't act again. And what's crazy about this act again is something that I didn't want to believe. So let's go ahead and act again for Rayleigh. Let's go ahead and choose whatever talent skill that we want to use. And so this way this will let her act again. And you always want to take a look at the characters because it will always trigger something whenever it comes to this. So if you guys saw the Euless icon right there, the faction buff icon, that's how you know you triggered the effects. So yeah, now the damage got dispelled and we got immunity to all debuffs. Yeah, I honestly just thought it was immunity to that specific debuff, but having just immunity to all debuffs is just something like, why? Even though it does last for 1 turn after you end your act again, but it's still kind of ridiculous. So yeah, whenever a character can act again, they'll always benefit from this. Her second 1C skill, the passive on it, when the prophecy comes true, you get immunity to being silenced for 2 turns. You can use this on 1 ally to heal, but if she has 2 or more augur stacks, she can choose an additional target. Still, even with the silence immunity, even though you can somewhat get it constantly if you have her at 5 stars, I still do recommend having the Swordsmith or Holy Ring on her just because you know for sure guaranteed that you're never ever going to be silenced. Silence immunity is the thing that I believe all support characters should have because it just prevents them from the one thing that they should be doing, and that is supplying their team with whatever they need. So yeah, regardless though, it is very strong. It is 5 times multiplier, so you're gonna be healing a lot with it. And then with their last 1C skill, which is the single target, the passive on it, when the prophecy comes true, the cooldown of all skill is reduced by 1. With each stack of augur, damage is increased. Plain and simple as that. You know, everything revolves around her prophecy, so get her to 5 stars. I'm gonna keep on saying this. She is a character that really benefits a lot from that, and you'll see a massive boost to her gameplay. Pretty much just faster in everything that she does. And she does hit quite hard too, like thanks to her int increase from her talent, and this is regarded as her strongest single target skill too. Just because of the 30% damage boost from this if you max it out, plus 10% more from her bond effect if you do have her in her mage class. So yeah, Enya can hit quite hard. You know, not the most unique damage dealer, but she can fulfill the sub DPS role quite nicely. And so let's get into her 2C skill, which is really good. I would not downplay this one. It's an AoE that reaches 3 blocks wide and 6 blocks long, clearing any enemy terrain effects within range, that heals allies within range, and reduces the cooldown of triggered effects by 1. Dispels 1 buff from the enemy and dispels a debuff from allies for each stack of augur possessed. So what it means by triggered cooldown is stuff like Rayleigh, like I'll tell you triggered cooldown such, which mainly points to the talent. So Rayleigh is 1, Awakener is 1. So Ashen has 2 debuffs, the clone has 2 debuffs, and pretty much just each stack of augur, you dispel just as much as how many augur stacks that you have. And doing this, you are able to clear stuff like Jesus tiles. Those stuff are always annoying. So yeah, now Ashen is cleansed, and the clone just dipped. So yeah, like I said, I would not downplay this one. It is very niche at times, because for one, if an ally is far, this is like one of her only skill that can reach them if they need that emergency heal, stuff like that. So it's just a very niche healing slash attack skill that you might carry here and there. Although if you want more of a consistent way of healing, then I do recommend bringing Mass Heal. Probably like her only other AoE healing skill that she got. And lastly, let's finally talk about her broken 3C skill here. Like if people try to explain to you and you were still confused about it, I'm about to show you guys what it's all about. So you summon an illusion of another non-summon unit and create a water mirror within 2 rings of the caster for 2 turns, which you can act again after using it. While the water mirror exists, the skill is replaced with Fate's Order. When the caster ends its turn outside the water mirror's range, it is removed. In PvP, each hero can only be selected by the skill once. The illusion inherits the initial state and all currents affected the original hero and is considered useless legend, which takes 50% more damage when outside the water mirror's range. If the illusion dies, the skill's cooldown is increased by 1. So I would say definitely positioning here is very important because if you want to like let's say like move in closer to the enemy, the illusion will spawn somewhere around Enya. And you know how I was talking about the way how you can get her talent stack much more faster? I'm about to show you guys right here and now why that is. So yeah, the water illusion does spawn around Enya, and now if you really pay attention right here, this thing copies exactly what my Patricia has. So check out my Patricia, literally like everything on her. So the stats, the buffs, the skills, soldiers and stuff like that. Take a look at the illusion. It does have one more buff which just tells you that it's a useless legend and takes more damage outside the water mirror's range, blah blah blah. And if we take a look at both Patricia here, they have 2 of the prophecy. And so that means that when you fulfill them both, Enya will get 2 range right off the bat if you fulfill it. And before I show that off, I do want to show you guys that copies exactly what they have. So normally Patricia's 3C is a 2-parter skill. Like if I go all the way back, you can see if you check out her 3C, the icon is different. So yeah, I just want to show that off real quick, just so that you guys know exactly. And this thing is nuts for a lot of reasons due to the endless possibilities that you do create. Essentially taking what you already have, so double the DPS rates, double the support rate, double your tank rates, all that good stuff. So you can do something absolutely dumb and do like crazy AoE damage with crazy AoE shenanigans with your DPS like Bozo, Patricia, anyone goes really. And it's just like insanely nuts. Just like I said, taking already what you have and just doubling the rate of it. So you can see just how insanely dumb that is. The other enemies just like completely overwhelmed. And as you can expect, the clone will move the exact same time as Enya before officially ending your turn. And so some characters can actually combo into each other, like for one, Jace. Jace can like what? Do his ignore guard with his AoE, and then like another Jace can come in and do his 3C snipe. And another example is Patricia, like you guys saw here. Patricia comboed into herself. It is wild stuff. And so like let's say in PvE, you can do like double a Soda or a Sherry, you know, to take out the mobs faster or take out the boss very quickly. Like I keep on saying about Enya, endless possibilities. So I do want to show off a little bit more, you know, just to like more details of it. I try not to miss everything if I can. There is a weird property when it comes to characters like Ashen here, when it comes to her talent stack. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy her. I do want to show off that her act again skill is on a cooldown and show off that it literally does copy exactly what they currently have. So the thing about the Ashen when you make a copy of her is that she does end up getting 3 stacks of her talent rather than saying that the original one has 2 stacks of it. And what I'm guessing here is that since the turn begins for the new Ashen, that ended up somehow triggering the talent effect. Like I'm no expert on these kind of stuff, so I'm just making a educated guess here. If you're planning on at the again with Ashen or Liana, you do want to use it beforehand before they actually use it. Otherwise, you're gonna be waiting for a while. Sorry, these illusions do last as long as this water mirror. Like when you click on it, it doesn't actively show you, but you gotta click on Enya here to actively see it. And be warned, I want you guys to really know this. I want you guys to really see this. Just be warned. Only the clone here can go outside of the water mirror's range. They will take damage, but a few of them can get away with it. However, Enya herself though, you are essentially locked into staying inside this water mirror's range. Because once you step out of it, the clone, the illusion, will disappear, and you do lose the water mirror's benefits. And the 3C does go on cooldown, which is 1 turn. Not too bad. So just keep that in mind. I've seen a couple of cases where people end up doing that, and they just completely screw themselves over. So let's get into her secondary part of her 3C. Passive on it, her talent can be cast on enemies, granting 1 additional augur stack when processing an enemy skill. When it's triggered, their skill cooldown is increased by 2. When augur is at maximum, the prophesied enemy immediately becomes unable to take action, which is replaced with immediately end their turn in PvP. This thing is a command effect where you take less AoE damage and recover health. When using this, it reduces damage taken for a single unit and grants immunity to all debuffs for 2 turns. When targeting an illusion, also applies a displacement effect with their original units. I will say that the talent thing on an enemy can be a bit more tricky in a way. Unless they end up having 1 skill that they need to use, then you can essentially lock them out of it so that you turn stall. And if they're not paying attention, then they just get really punished for it. Okay, what you can do is act again, and then if you haven't used a prophecy on the first turn already, then you can select the talent skill and you can use it on anyone here. Reminder that it does reach across the map, which is very insane. Let's go ahead and take a look at the skill here. So Leon already used the skill, Elwin is a 50-50 here, and Vargas here only has 1 skill that he's definitely going to be using. You know, NPCs always end up using the skill, he's going to end up using it. So let's go ahead and use on Vargas and then click on his attack skill. That's the one he has left, so we're going to do it. So yeah, with that down, it should be a bit different here. So it'll be on cooldown if they end up using it. If she's at max, then they get stunned, otherwise PvP, they just end their turn. Which does have a bit of a different color here since it's on the enemy. So let's see what happens here. They should still end up using their skill, it's just that afterwards it will be on cooldown. But if she does have max stacks, then they end up getting stunned or just end their turn before they can end up using it. So Vargas goes ahead and uses power stab, and there was a bit of trigger going on, so telling you that the thing that you did got triggered. So now let's go ahead and check Vargas here. So it should be on a much higher cooldown, which should be 4, because 2 original cooldown right there. But it does definitely come in handy when you know for sure that this enemy is going to want to use it. And so with Enya at max stacks here, let's see what happens when we go ahead and use it on an enemy with prophecy. And so in PvE, they should be stunned. So yeah, if they end up trying to use whatever it is, then simply just denies them of doing it. They do get heavily punished for it. In PvP, the enemy should not know what it is. So yeah, there are some moments where it's going to be like obvious, and it does incentivize the opponent to like not do it if they are paying attention. But otherwise they do, it takes the original cooldown of that skill plus 2. So if it's a faction buff, they're going to be waiting 6 turns for it to come back online. And so lastly here, it's pretty straightforward here from what this 3C is going to be doing, the secondary part of the 3C. So if you do end up using it on the clone, it does swap the original body with it. So the clone and the original primary unit does get swapped around, which is very nice since Enya does act again and the clone itself will spawn nearby Enya. Let's go ahead and let's say I want Patricia closer to us. So let's go ahead and copy Patricia here, and then the clone Patricia spawns near us, and then we are gonna do some swapping around, swap them both here. And so we can have like, although it's bad that main Patricia here, but let's say like I can do this and then have the main Patricia here do the same thing as well. Although I don't think this is a very good presentation of it. Perhaps a better way of explaining it is like, let's say like you have an assassin that is like far ahead that you can reach with the 3C, and so what Enya can do is act again with the 3C, make the clone of him, and the clone will spawn always nearby Enya. And since the clone will move at the same time as Enya, if the clone can reach the enemy, then boom, maybe pull off a kill or something. Or maybe you can use the clone in a way to move your main original character into position, and since the clone will still move, that clone itself too can set itself up. So yeah, there it is. That's the main gist of Enya's 3C potential there. More than enough actions that you're able to do with Enya. Probably a lot more than you realize. So, overall, Enya isn't all too special until you unlock her 3C. That's where the real game changer begins, and what makes her entirely broken. With it, her main role is to essentially take what you have and double it in whatever scenario that you get yourself in, such as having 2 DPS, having 2 support characters, having 2 tanks. So you could have, like, let's say for example with 2 Assaulta to take down bosses or whatnot much more faster, or use characters that can combo into each other like Jace. Use it on someone like Ashen or Liana for the multiple at again. So she's extremely flexible and versatile since she just doubles the performance of your own gameplay. All of the endless possibilities that she can create will further amplify as we get more characters down the line, as if we haven't got enough OP characters already. Her 3C is the main selling point about her as a character. Not to say that her other skills and her talent are not noteworthy. One of the biggest one is her faction buff being for the healers team, and her talent is also very strong as well. It's also one of the biggest part of her kit. So with the skills that she has, she can commit to full support or maybe sub DPS. You know, if you have another healer, then her being a sub DPS can be quite big, because her healing isn't something that I wouldn't exactly really depend on, since it's not very strong compared to most of the healers that we already have. All in all, she is a character that will continue to get better and better as we get more characters due to the endless possibilities that she can create, which is insanely massive, more than you realize, by doubling your own performance. Alright, so that was Enya's showcase. An absolute beast to use in both content. But I will say that in PvE, if you're thinking about trying to use her as a solo healer, a lot of times that she can do a fine, decent job. Like, I don't think that her healing is that strong to begin with, although she does have other support stuff to make up for it. But if you need some crazy massive healing, then I highly recommend still using Rosencio. She's going to keep your team safe in a lot of cases. Maybe Celica too in some situations where if you need to revive plus more support options. So yeah, Enya as a solo healer isn't exactly strong, but not to say that she won't do a bad job. But if you really want to, you can honestly put them together and have Enya be a sub DPS. Not a bad thing to do. But yeah, I'm gonna keep on repeating myself again here, since what I'm about to say applies to everywhere as the future goes on. Endless possibilities that she can create that will heavily boost your performance by 2 folds. Even with all of the ridiculous characters we have right now, she is a character that will get better and better as we get more characters down the line. Is Enya really worth it though? I'll say yes, but don't feel like that, oh, I must absolutely need this character. Because yeah, Enya is broken, and since she is an anniversary character, I do recommend you pull for her, because they don't come back in like 6 months. I wouldn't be too upset about missing out on her, because you still can get away without Enya. It's just only that if you do have her, she just makes things a bit more easier for you. You know, I don't think Enya is really as much of an important character as Awakener, where Awakener is your only time faction buff in this game besides Angelica, but there are better support characters than her. Plus Awakener is a pretty good attacker as well to make up for it. So yeah, Enya isn't exactly a must-need character, even though I do recommend you guys pull for her. Just don't go, oh, I must absolutely need her. But that's all I got. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to like, subscribe, want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about Enya, or if there was anything else that I may have missed. Or maybe you want to share another opinion. So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.